Our second short story that you're about to read is called Top of the Food Chain by T.C. Boyle. This story was written by T.C. Boyle, who you can see on the left there, in 1993. You may have heard of the idea of a food chain before. It's pictured a little blurrily on the right there. The food chain is an idea that in each environment, there's a chain of things that survive by eating one another. So in the picture on the right, grass grows and is eaten by insects. Mice eat those insects. Snakes eat the mice. Birds eat the snakes. And then when the birds die, fungus will eat them. So all things are connected in this way. That means if something happens to one stage of the food chain, let's say a lot of snakes die out one year, it's going to affect everything higher up because they don't get enough food. This is a key idea in Boyle's story. But really, what you can think of his story is that it's about the domino effect. It's about one person in a position of power making a decision that has a lot of chain reactions that maybe don't go quite the way he's hoping it will. It's about how messing with one small thing, something at the bottom of the food chain, can have big unintended consequences. The structure of the story is a little strange, so before getting into the story, there's some background pieces you can look at, and these are questions in your packet as well. The setting of the story is in the United States Senate. We're not told exactly what year it is, but the story was written in 1993, and we can assume it's sometime around then in the 1980s or 90s. The story is told from the perspective of a scientist who is coming back and giving a report to the US senators. The most interesting thing about the structure of the story is that it's written like a phone call. We can only hear one side of the conversation. We can hear what the scientist is saying, and sometimes he'll speak directly to the senator saying, "Oh, what's that? Yes, you're right." But we never actually hear what the senators themselves say. We're stuck in just this one person's perspective. And as you'll find out, he's maybe not the most trustworthy narrator. He's got some odd ideas, and he's kind of trying to save his own skin. He's made a mistake, and he's trying to cover it up. So, because we can only hear his perspective, we have to keep in mind that not everything he's saying is going to be 100% accurate. There's also a few vocabulary words that'll be helpful to know before you get into the story. The first one is DDT, also called, well, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but you can see it on the screen there. DDT is a chemical that was used starting in the 1930s as a pesticide to kill insects. It was eventually discontinued in the 1970s when it was found to have dangerous environmental effects that went up the food chain. In particular, it is one of the reasons that bald eagles became endangered because eagles ate the snakes and rats that ate the bugs that had DDT in their system, and the chemical caused their eggshells to break, making it harder for them to have children. So, DDT is this dangerous chemical that, at the point the story was written, was known to be dangerous. The EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency. It is a organization of the American government that is supposed to, well, protect the environment. So Boyle writes this story partially to say what happens when you have a powerful country like America that tries to intervene in another country that's not as well developed, but maybe doesn't take that responsibility seriously. What happens when you have people in power who are treating other nations, other civilizations as savages, people who don't know what's best for them, and making decisions that are just really wrong? We're going to see in this story how a scientist who should know better decides to use a dangerous chemical as a quick fix to a problem that would be illegal in the United States, but he thinks he can get away with it because he's working in Borneo. And who cares about Borneo, right? Well, the people who live there, presumably. So as you read the story, don't take our narrator at his word. Hold him accountable. Think about how his actions have consequences. Enjoy the story.